Hi there, it is Erick Erickson here. Glad to have you with me. The phone number is 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. So I got to acknowledge something. I got a free pack of Omaha steaks. They sent me a big box of it. Now, I had actually ordered one, and Philip got the New York strips and the burgers and the chicken. I kept, because they asked me to, give a try to the New York strip burgers. I don't know who came up with this genius idea, but if you go to omahasteaks.com and you put Georgia in the search bar up at the top, and you see their summer package, someone at Omaha Steaks had the genius idea of passing New York strip steaks through the grinder and making a burger out of them. And let me tell you, they are a cut above your standard burger. They're even better than the Omaha Steak burgers. The Omaha Steak burgers are better than your store-bought burger because they're a better grade of beef. They're beefier flavor. And the New York strip burgers are even better. If you go to omahasteaks.com today and you put Georgia in the search bar, you can get the Get Out and Grill assortment. You're going to get butcher-cut New York strips. They are aged at least 30 days. They get great beefy flavor. You're going to get boneless chicken breasts, Omaha Steak burgers, gourmet jumbo franks, Omaha Steakhouse fries, caramel apple tartlets, their signature seasoning, and you're going to get for free these 4 New York strip burgers. And now, again, I don't know who came up with the idea. I'm going to throw a New York strip in the meat grinder, and I'm going to convert it into a burger. And oh my goodness gracious, it is a fantastic burger. It is great. Because, you know, the Omaha Steak New York strips, they're aged at least 30 days, and then they're made into a burger. It's great. And you get them for free. This could be this could be a trend. So I'm telling you, give it a whirl. Go to omahasteaks.com. Put Georgia in the search bar. Get this deal. You get it for Father's Day. You still got time. Memorial Day is not until this Sunday or this Monday. So you got time to get it here for Memorial Day. You got it for Father's Day. You get it for my birthday. You can have a celebratory steak in my honor on my birthday. It comes up next week too. But it's a great package. It's an incredible value. And those New York strip burgers are divine. It's what they must serve in heaven. You know, Jesus is up there in heaven eating somewhere. I mean, he's fully God, fully man. He's got to eat. Men get hungry. He's got to eat. If they served him an Omaha steak burger, he'd be happy. Is that sacrilege? I don't think so. I think he'd appreciate it. All right, we got to move on. We actually do have to move on. Oh, calm down. Calm down. Jesus could take it. He's got a sense of humor. John Harwood. John Harwood is a man who hates the GOP and always has. And he's now out with this CNN lament. Dismissed in 2012, this diagnosis of GOP ills has now become undeniable. And of course, it's GOP bad. And he highlights Marjorie Taylor Greene as the reason there and the insurrection of January 6th and what have you. You know what he's doing here? He's just taking James Carville's advice. He's trying to define the GOP in the worst possible terms because that's what James Carville said to do. And so the leftists say, oh, Carville's a smart guy. Let's do exactly what he said to do. And as a result, we're going to continue to see a rash of these pieces from members of the media doing what Carville wanted them to do. and welcome. It is Erick Erickson here this fine Tuesday. Delighted to have you. My phone number, if you want to call me and talk, is 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. There's an article in Foreign Affairs. America hasn't lost its demographic advantages. Its rivals are in worse shape. We don't need to get into the merits of elementary school graduation, middle school graduation, that sort of stuff. I went to my son's sixth grade graduation. He goes to a classical Christian school where they the K through 6 is very much a rhetoric school. They learn Latin. They learn vast memorization of facts and data, and then they move into their middle and high school years where they learn to take all of the data that they memorized and turn it into cogent arguments. And there's a process by which they do it, and by leaving the rhetoric school, they did a graduation. And I was thinking there, his school is small. We made a very intentional decision to move our children to a school that very much reflects our values. And there are lots of schools in America that claim to be, for example, a Christian school, and they are in name only. There are in the Atlanta, Georgia area near where I live, there are a number of very prominent historic Christian private schools, none of which really teach Christianity, they're overwhelmingly woke and progressive. There are schools in my area similarly situated, and around the country this is a trend where a lot of schools with Christian identities, they get big, they like the money, they like the revenue, they like the sports, they like the programs, and they kind of leave God for the world. And we wanted to have our kids at a school that very explicitly is grounded in faith and doesn't show any signs of wavering from that faith, even at the expense of being more worldly and having more overwhelming opportunities and funding for programs. We would rather our kids learn our values. And I was thinking about that this morning, and I was thinking about the story because if you haven't heard, the United States has crossed the demographic Rubicon. Japan long ago crossed the demographic Rubicon, a point at which there's no turning back. No country that has tried has been successful in turning back, and that is you reach a point where your birth rates are declining so much that your population is aging so much, and you got way more old people than young people, and eventually your country is dying out. It's like the Episcopal Church. Now, I do mean to pick on the Episcopal Church. There was a study done several years ago that the last Episcopalian in America has been born. We don't know who that person is, but we know that the last person to inhabit the Episcopalian Church has been born, and that church was one of the very first in this country to go woke and progressive, and the result is that people who are actually authentically Christian are leaving that denomination for the Anglicans, the Catholics, the Presbyterians, the Methodists, and others, and that church is left with a hardcore contingent of diehard leftists who don't really believe the Word of God, but they like to get up on Sundays and be inconvenienced. And no one, listen, why on earth would anyone get up on a Sunday morning and go to a church if they really didn't believe in eternal life? Why would you do it when you can sleep in on a Sunday? I'll be just transparent and honest with all of you. God, I hate the word transparent, and I've used it twice today already, and that's how much I hate it. I kept track of it. I'm going to be transparent with you. Let me be honest with you. We hadn't been to church in a long time because of the pandemic, because of a number of other situations, primarily the pandemic, and then I started doing this obscene work schedule where I'm doing 2 radio shows back to back. I've been doing 2 radio shows 3 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening. I could have done 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the evening, and I would have been fine. But right now I'm doing 6 straight hours. I start at 9 a.m. and I leave at 3 p.m. And if you want to understand the effect it had on me, I threw a blood clot in my lungs last week. The amount of sitting that I'm doing. And I get up during commercial breaks. I do get up during commercial breaks. I move around. But the amount of stress I've been under in dealing with 2 shows back to back and talking as much as I'm talking, and it has deteriorated my health. I do not like it. But I know it's rapidly coming to an end. And I just decided that I will worry about all those other things in life when I get through this season of life. And we will be deliberate about going back to church, and I'll be better about meal prep and everything else. You know, I mean, the great thing about talking from 9 to 9 to 3 is it's a great diet plan. I have breakfast, and then at 3:30 I go to the gym, and by 5 o'clock we start the conversation of, what do you want for dinner? I don't know. What do you want for dinner? I don't know. What do you want for dinner? Food? What sort of food? The kind of food you eat? I mean, this is what we go through until about 7 o'clock, and then we're like, okay, eat. So by then, I eat a meal, and I'm ready for bed. And so it's great. It's intermittent fasting, I think is what they call it. It's really starvation with a fancy name is what intermittent fasting is. This is way the heck off of where I was headed, but I'll get back there. The point of all of this is my kids go to the school. It is a school grounded in faith. And one of the great dividing points between the world and people of faith now is that people of faith are more likely to have kids than secularists. It is an actual defining trait now in a lot of evangelical churches that it is there you find the interracial families because the white parents have adopted black kids. It is there that you find families of large numbers of kids. It is there that you find defiance of culture. Now, I'm going to go off on a real tangent here. Philip will want to cut this one up. Put it on YouTube or wherever. Thousands of years ago, there was a guy named Moses. And Moses wrote the first several books of the Bible. And Moses wrote Genesis 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, we can't actually appreciate this. I mean, you can appreciate it, but you know what? Let me. How does it read in the King? I'm not a King James Version guy. I think if you are, you're kind of silly. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth is King James. I use the ESV, and by the way, I don't mean to be insulting. Well, kind of I do to the King James only people is that you've made an idol out of a book. God did not speak in they and thou. He spoke in ways, and the writers of the Bible wrote in languages that we have better transcriptions, and some of the choices made by the King James Version of the Bible were explicitly political choices, and it's not the pure as driven snow version of the Bible. And if you think it is, you're an idol worshiper. If you are diehard committed to the idea that the King James Version of the Bible is the only version of the Bible, you're an idol worshiper. That is just the truth, even if you don't like it. Now, I say all that, and here we go. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light, and there was light, and God saw the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. He called the light day, and the darkness he called night. Now, let's go down. And there's actually a specific verse that I want to get to, verse 14. Genesis 1, and God said, let there be lights in the expanse of heavens to separate the day from the night. And let them be signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be the lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made the 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. And God set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. Now, there's a point here. There actually is a point to that. Moses grew up as a prince of Egypt, and a prince of Egypt was raised to believe that the sun and the moon and all the stars were gods. In fact, if you want to get really deep into Egyptology, the primary god, by then it would have been Ra, was believed to have essentially self-pleasured himself And the fluid secretion, that was what you see as the stars, and they all became gods. Yeah, that's getting deep, isn't it? And here comes this Moses guy and says, no, they're things in the sky. There's the sun, and there's the moon, and there's the stars. God put them all there. That's it. Completely counterculture to everything he would have been taught. In fact, Judaism, based on Genesis, was the only religion on the planet for thousands of years that was a monotheistic religion and believed those things in the sky, they were just put there by God. Wholly countercultural. Completely countercultural. And in the church today, that's where the counterculture lives. It is counter to the world's sexual ethics. It is counter to the way the world raises kids. It is counter to the way the world reflects marriage. It is counter to all of these things. And let's be really honest, the world is pretty alluring. You who cares about monogamy? Go have sex. It's fun. Go do it. We deal with the consequences later. Why have kids? They're a burden. They're an anchor. You can't grow your career. You can't advance in life. You can't do other things. Don't have kids. And here comes God. Here comes Moses. Here comes Jesus. Here comes this belief that says, you know what? Yes, you are sacrificing to a degree. We'll talk about it as blessings and good, and we'll take joy and we'll delight in the Lord. But you look at the world around you and you see these people and your sin pulling you out into it. It's like, these people are having fun. They're having wild promiscuity. They're just having fun. It's all about pleasure. It's hedonistic. It feels good at the time. And here comes this religion saying, no, you got to live your life in a particular way. And yes, you look around the world and the world looks awesome. The world looks incredible. But that's temporary. You get eternity. In eternity, you're looking at that thinking, man, why am I here with one hot wife when I can have like a harem and no kids? And essentially, by faith, you acknowledge that your eternity is going to even be more awesome than that. And I don't know what it's going to look like, but it's going to be more awesome than that. Just stick with this. You sacrifice now and you gain later. And it'll be in different ways, but it'll be amazing. It's completely countercultural. And in the church right now, what you see is you have families, you have kids, you have large families, you have interracial families. It is completely counter to the world. In fact, there's a trend in the world right now that doesn't want interracial adoption anymore, that thinks interracial adoption is bad. It's the alt-right and the far left have come to agreement. They're very much the same people, and they think that's bad. And there's a trend in this country to put off raising kids until later in life. Your kids are born later. You have a limited family, and the result is that we can't now replace our population because the culture is so anti having kids, and particularly have kids early. In fact, there's this whole belief now that you should put off kids, build your career, and then have kids. No, actually, have kids early, so that you can enjoy your kids when they get to an adult age. You're not going to be a geriatric like, oh, well, I won't be that old when my kids hit 21 and older. But there's this upside down belief, and the church is countercultural to that. And this now gets into this demographic issue. We're not alone in this. This is a global trend. It's not rich countries or poor countries. It's every country. Births are declining. The United States' global preeminence owes a great deal to demographics. After the collapse and fragmenting of the Soviet Union, the United States became the world's third most populous country, behind the giants China and India. By comparison to other developed countries, the United States maintained unusually high levels of fertility and immigration, a phenomenon I termed American demographic exceptionalism in these pages in 2019. Since the end of the Cold War, the overall American population and its number of working-age people between 20 and 64 has grown more rapidly than those of other developed countries, and faster too than those of rivals China and Russia. Growing working-age populations boost national productivity and economies run by governments that can successfully develop and tap human resources. For modern welfare states, the slower aging of the population forestalls some of the fiscal burdens built into current arrangements. To the extent that crude demographic trends matter in world affairs, they've been running to the United States' advantage for some time, but big changes are underway. The initial returns from the U.S. 2020 census and the reports about last year's birth totals offered sobering news. With the slowdown of population growth and steady declines in national fertility, the United States now seems to be charting a less optimistic demographic path, one leading to a grayer and less populous, less prosperous future. It's losing its advantage and becoming less exceptional. This is a trend playing out all around the world. Developed and developing countries are seeing declining birth rates. The only group around the world that is defying the trend are people in the church. Yet again, countercultural. It'll yet again be the church that saves society, and no one wants to talk about that angle of it. In fact, to some degree, it's pejorative to even talk about that these days. It's bad. You don't talk about it. Why are those freaks having so many babies? Because they're committed to being fruitful and multiplying, and they're the ones who are going to save the planet. It's ironic. In the great rush of secularism to believe we must save the planet, it's actually the Christian stewards of the planet who are going to be the ones to save it, because they're going to be the ones who continue to reproduce and populate the planet while everyone else has stopped having kids and focused on themselves.
I really do like his opinion